Thank you once again for all the people who logged on time. It's really appreciated. Some of you were, some of you logged in before the time, so that's really appreciated. And welcome, Varghese, on the call on customer centricity. I'm really looking forward to chatting up with you, about your experiences, about your learnings in the last 31 years of experience you've had. We'll talk more about Varghese Joseph as we go along. Welcome, Varghese.
Thank you, Aman, and it's my pleasure. And I hope it's a learning experience for all of us.
Yes, absolutely. I'm very sure of that. And let's go on. So this is a short, understanding about what customer centricity today, what it is all about. And as an organization, before we talk more about our guest, Varghese Joseph, the MD of, Johnson Controls Hitachi, PT Singapore. We'll talk more about him in a little while. But before that, let me quickly run you through our organization. As an organization, Salto Di Fe is a business enabling consulting firm, and we are a science-based qual-quant. We believe in that way of approach to ensure that we give the best consulting advice and execution advice to our clients. We are essentially, we work in four different verticals. The first being talent management. In talent management, across the whole gamut, from talent acquisition, how you have a talent philosophy, how you do competency mapping, how do you ensure that you get the right talent, how do you identify, how do you nurture talent. So the entire gamut of talent management in organizations, in corporates. Then we look at org transformation. So how can we look at today's fast changing world? How do you transform organizations, help them, equip them, and help to change mindsets as we say, the VUCA world, most of you will be knowing. How do we help them adapt to the change and grow with the changing world, changing environment? And of course, one of the most critical parts is leadership development, because ultimately leaders blaze a new path, they set the trend, and it's important to have the right leadership traits and equip the leadership team to really run their organizations well and develop their people and lead their organizations. And in a very selective way, we also do executive search. So these are the four practice lines which we have as Salto Di Fe. And now let me tell you more about our guest speaker, Varghese Joseph. 31 years, like I told you, and he has been. But before I tell you more about the hard facts about him, let me talk a little bit of the soft aspect, which I know. I'm very honored to have him on this call, simply because he's seen the journey right from a simple sales executive to an executive director, and right now managing director of a very, very large organization. So he has seen it all. And the beauty about Varghese Joseph is that he has his ear to the ground. He's extremely down to earth, practical, and very humble. So these are the traits of a true leader, and I really mean it, because we have been in consulting for the last 10 years, and we have seen all kinds of leaders. And the leaders who really succeed are the ones who are with their teams, work along shoulder to shoulder, and have an ear to the ground. And of course, being humble is a very, very important trait. So I'm glad to share with you that he has all these traits, along with being a school batchmate and a college batchmate, incidentally. We have had great times together and great fun together. And we obviously, in our careers, we were in different lines altogether. And he has a fantastic experience. A little about his family. He's married to Reena, a lovely wife, and has two lovely children. Reena is a housewife by choice, and he has two lovely children called Jonathan and Nora. And a little about his current role. His role is, Asia, Southeast Asia, Pacific, and he is heading 6 countries for Johnson Controls Hitachi, 1 manufacturing plant, over 1,000 employees. So that's the kind of area of operation he is currently looking after. I remember him from his early days. I met him, once very early when we were both in Ahmedabad. Amtrex, he was looking, Amtrex air conditioners, if you've heard of it. Hitachi took over Amtrex, right? And Amtrex, he was for some time heading their entire customer care. So he had a great, he had a close this thing with customer care. But I believe very strongly that he's been in sales throughout after that, leading geographies, countries, and right now he's handling the entire area as a profit center head for the Southeast and the Pacific region. And some of you know me. My name is Aman. I have been in the corporate sector for 23 years and 5 years in consulting. And I've been in the sales side almost throughout and the business side, as they say. And I've been fortunate enough to be on the other side of the table as a head HR for about 2.5 years with Zlearn. So, and I've been having a great experience with Salto DeFi, working with different organizations for org change, mindset change, sales training, leadership development, and all these areas. So that's quick. And I would, if I missed something and you want to add, Varghese, I would love you to add something. Please go ahead.
No, Aman, thanks for those kind words. I think you spoke a lot, I guess. I don't measure up to so much, but thank you so much for your kind words. And it's been a good journey, and I think it's been a good, frankly, a learning experience which I have had. So I always believe that, wherever you go, there is no age for learning. I think you keep constantly observing and learning as we go. And that's I think, the key hallmark for any professional, I guess. So that's what we all bring onto the table.
Super. Thank you for that. Yeah, I agree. And today's changing world, learning is something you can never stop, right? Great. Thank you for that. Moving on, before we start, if all the participants can quickly write in short their company and industry, so we have an idea as to which industry and company you are from, so we know the kind of different industry folks we have in this webinar. So if you can write down your company in short and the industry, we'll wait for a minute to put it on the chat window. Yeah, so you can write your company and industry. Okay, and an HR professional, advisory, wonderful. So we have somebody from Reliance, of course I know him, that's great, thank you. We have from the automotive sector, service, lovely. Yes, service is very close to my heart because that's where I am from, but yeah. So we are from travel. So we are from technology. Of course, from the healthcare industry. And again, technology. Okay, lovely. Manufacturing, great. Okay, wonderful. We have some, great participation from different industries, diverse industries, Varghese. So yeah, and it would be lovely for for us to hear some viewpoint because you've been essentially in manufacturing. But I believe that the manufacturing and service industry lines are now blurring, right? So we'll hear more about that. So yes, so customer expectations are getting higher and higher, and each one of us is a customer first, and then each one of us is also, or a lot of us are in customer facing roles and also associated with, probably some of us are also directly associated with serving the customer and delivering service excellence, okay? So moving forward, I would like to say that, as an organization, I have had the opportunity to, have multiple interactions with different companies on customer centricity, and I will share some of my views. But before that, I would request, Varghese Joseph to really, share what does customer centricity, the word customer centricity, what does it mean to him when customer centricity comes up? What is it that, comes to your mind?
I think for me, Aman, I would say customer centricity is, in a very short sentence, creating a positive experience for the customer. I don't want to talk about a big terminology in terms of customer sensitivity. I think it's more important to create that positive experience. Now, it can be for a product, it can be for a service, it can be, it can be for any service. And it's not about any private or company, or it can be government, it can be it's a very vast field if you look at it. But I think it's about creating positive experiences for our consumers or customers at large. And I think important is an experience, because there is never a score of 100. You have to keep improving, keep changing. I think that's important as we go in time, and that's the way I would like to keep the definition.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, it's an experience, and like you said, we have to continuously improve. There's no one ending point, right? Correct. Okay. So I would also invite some of the participants to quickly, in next 1 minute, just share one word what customer centricity means to them also. So we have some more views. So let's have the participants share maybe a word or two. What does customer centricity mean to you? One word, top of the mind word.
Empathy.
Okay, so if you can do it, thanks for that. If you do the chat, that'll be better. Thank you, Varun. If you all can do, so I've got your word empathy. Pain solver, okay. Empathy, yes, thanks. Empathetic, we will talk about that a little bit later. Delightful experience, focused attention, okay, responsive, okay, this is big. Reason for existence, raison d'etre, as they say. I can see Varghese smiling. Yes, of course. We're all here because the customer is there and is willing to, take our product or service. Listener, problem solving. Okay, lovely. Thank you so much for your, your points. High loyalty, yes, valid, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of things. Yeah, so I think they do all come together in ensuring a fabulous customer experience, which you just talked about. And yes, we will talk. We will delve more. We'll go deeper and look at different facets of customer centricity. Moving on. Why is customer centricity required? Okay. Why? What is it? Why today customer centricity, today meaning in the last couple of years, has it gained prominence? What would you say? So Varghese, what are some of your thoughts on why customer centricity has gained prominence in the last couple of years?
I think customer centricity is also gaining, more importance because there's blurring of lines across geographies, across markets, how we are able to interact with customers. Earlier, there was a much smaller group. You could isolate customers in a region and an area and treat differently. Today, I don't think that's possible for any product or any organization. It's very open, and I think it's important to take each customer in the channel, right? Otherwise, earlier you could have different strategies for different channels and move on, which is still possible today, but you need to take care of ensuring all customers are, the potential customers you're looking at, they are taken care of. I think that's one large difference which has happened, thanks to the social media, thanks to the overall, the way we are globalizing in terms of across the business, across the customer groups which are there. I think that's the experience which is changing, I would say, drastically in the last few years compared to maybe a decade or two back.
Okay, yeah. So blurring of lines, and it's all become one big market, right?
Yeah.
So the Indian customer will know what the same company is serving up in the US market. So
absolutely, yeah.
So he can be equally demanding, right?
He can equally be demanding. He can be, and I would say that it's even more challenging in India because India is one of the rare countries which is an English-speaking country compared to many of the other countries across the globe. So, and they are very, very literate on web. So, and I would say that today the customer is far more aware than maybe two decades back. So I think it's a good situation for consumers in India today.
Okay, so it's basically what you're saying is a buyer's market completely in most of the areas, right? They are spoiled for choices.
Yeah, spoiled for choices, as well as I think it's important to get demanding as a customer. I think earlier you could, honestly, in India you could get away with a bit of shoddy service or shoddy products. But today, I think you will be history if you're not able to take care of your customers, honestly.
Okay. So right, so the expectations are right up there.
That's true.
Yeah. So they have access to global quality products. So they expect the same from the Indian service people and the manufacturers too, correct? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that is true. And also, I think their experiences also, a lot of Indians have traveled outside of India. So I think the experiences also are, coming from those countries, what they have seen and what is available. I think that is also pushing the customer centricity, so to speak, for all product categories across businesses. Now, whether it's business, product, even if you look at the government, how they are reacting, how they are making it more friendly for whether it's a taxpayer or for anyone, you'll see this kind of a trend across board. It's not about businesses alone, I would say.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody is focusing on the customer now. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. And do you think brand loyalty is there or brand loyalty is not there anymore?
I think the brand loyalty is definitely, I would say, is there. It's not that it's not. I think it would be foolish to say that there is no brand loyalty. There
Yeah.
is definitely a value in brand loyalty, but I think also equally important is customers are willing to try out new things, which possibly, again, like you said, spoil with choice. So they go both hand in hand, I would say.
Okay. Okay. So, I was meaning more from a stickiness perspective. Earlier there was huge stickiness. So I'll just give an example. Our parents, when they bought Times of India, they would swear by Times of India and they would not touch a single paper. That was like complete brand stickiness, right? Now people are probably, and I'm asking this question, people are willing to uh, check out more things. They are more open to other brands. They are open to newer experiences, open to more products. They're willing to try out more, not kind of, close off all options. Is that something which is happening?
I think that's also to do with, Aman, with the awareness which is there. I think the awareness to everyone right now, even if you look at our children, right, the kind of awareness which they have today vis-a-vis when we were children, I think it's a huge difference, I would say. So it's a different world, and I think we need to adapt accordingly to the world. I think that's important. Like even taking your newspaper example, it's not about only about newspaper, right? You're getting into electronic medium, you're getting into in electronic medium, you've got the quick newses of the world, and you've got all kinds of newses. So it's a different market available today.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's go ahead. Yes. So I guess every company or many companies claim that they are very customer centric and they are really thinking from customers' point of view. But somewhere I think they say that. I'm not too sure whether everyone is really thinking from a customer's point of view, right? So somewhere, we have to look at how do we solve, customer's problem, what he's facing, or or is the company only looking at a product or service which will give them a profitable margin or return? So is it a product or service focused organization or it is a customer centric organization? So this is just a thought I'm leaving, and I want to go ahead. As we go along, and this will get answered as we talk to you, Varghese, in the next 15-20 minutes. And before we, an interesting and fun bit. So customer centricity does not mean doing exactly what the customer says. Okay, because many times the customer is wanting something and is not fully aware of the product. So let me just share some interesting tidbit which happened with Kellogg's. So what happened was that at Kellogg's, they said to their one of their vendors who's making a promotional material for them, they said, okay, just print the Kellogg logo, okay? And very faithfully, here is what you see. So the vendor simply wrote the whole line, just the Kellogg logo, and printed the Kellogg logo. This is actual situation. It's got 200 spoons written with that. So on a lighter side, sometimes the customer is not fully aware. So one of the things which we as an organization and all of us need to do at the organization level is help educate the customer, right? We are the organization which is giving the product or service, so we need to make him understand the overall perspective. So somewhere he will also understand that in addition to what he's wanting, there's some other things which are fulfilling his needs. So it's not necessary. So we can modify, once in a while we can modify and make him understand the complete picture. Then maybe he'll not want that one small thing which he's kind of hankering for. So, maybe sometimes doing exactly what the customer is not the best thing for him. We can make him understand that. And I'm meaning that genuinely. I'm not meaning that, just for the company's sake you do it, but genuinely for the customer, you make him understand what he's right now asking for may not be the best thing for him in the long run, right? Moving on. So really, what does it mean, to be customer-centric? We have covered one very, very important piece is creating customer value, right? So creating value for the customer. So each and every one, whether you buy a shirt today or you buy a car tomorrow, right? Only if you feel the value is when you will go and buy that product. So it's not just price, it's the overall value which we're looking at. And then second is, to be customer centric as an organization, you're basically putting the customer first. So I would like to read a simple, simple line from the playbook of Jeff Bezos. He says, start with the customer and work backwards. Very simple line. And I would ask a few more questions to Varghese on that, okay, where he thinks it's really happening, maybe in an organization somewhere else. So Amazon, we of course know it's happening. We look at some other organization where it's happening. So that is one line, one short, small line, but a real difficult thing to implement. And lastly, what does that mean to be customer centric? Most and longest lasting business value. So it's not the value you create at that moment, because you can create a high at that moment. How are you able to create a lasting value, right? So those are the three things which really, I believe, mean customer centricity, or kind of echo in total what is customer centricity. So moving on, I would like to talk about that customer centricity is a, and please, if you have some questions, if you would like to have a query or something, please put it on the chat box, and I'll quickly see if I can respond to that if you have any query. So it's an ever-changing game. Varghese, don't you feel that it's like it's a game? If you look at customers, and the rules are there, but the rules are today the rules are different. Two more competitors enter, and the rules change completely, right? They may be able to offer a more slicker, better product or service at probably at the same price point, or probably at a better price point also. So the rules have changed again. So we have to relook at our product or service. So you have to be constantly evolving as an organization. And I would like to hear some experiences, Varghese, from you of how your organization has coped as we go along, and how you all have changed and adapted to the changing expectations of the consumers and your customers. Okay, so a new edition of the game is launched, and the rules have changed, and again you have to adapt. So the goalpost is a moving goalpost. Today's world, the goalpost is always moving. Okay, so you have to have your ear on the ground, listening to the customer all the time, not once a month, not once in a year, but maybe many times in a month and many times in a year, of course. So I would like, we would now be covering, in the next, say, we've got about 35 minutes, And we would love to take your questions. So if you have some questions, we'd love to take your questions in the end. But if you still have questions in the middle and something is troubling you or something is there in your mind, please feel free to even ask me questions now, to me or Varghese, anybody, and we would love to answer. Is that okay with you, Varghese?
Yeah, perfectly fine.
Yeah, I'm taking that liberty of saying it on your behalf. So yeah, so we will be talking about, what does customer centricity look for organizations today, and how does one deliver value, to the customer. And lastly, I would also like to cover that there are lots of metrics floating around in the organization, in various, organizations are using. People are using NPS. People are using, share of wallet. Lots of metrics which are there. Which are the metrics which you believe, which I'll come to you about this later, is which you believe are really making a difference? What you have used in your organization, what has really worked for you, and how we can, make the best, get the best out of the customer centricity metrics, right? Voice of customer and so on and so forth. Going forward, so now, Varghese, a direct question which I would like to ask you is, what is the biggest difference you've seen from customers, say about 10, 12 years ago? Okay. So, and what do you expect it'll be from 5 years now? So I'm going to ask you the two-part question. The one question, in the last 10, 12 years, what's the difference you've seen in the kind of customers? And you can relate directly, you can share from your industry and your organization also directly. And what is it that you see will happen in the next 5 years?
Soman, I think in our product specifically now, let me be relevant to India specific because most of the audience is from there. Now, we look at India for the, our business is in air conditioning products there, which is largely into commercial and residential. And we have seen a large change in the regulations, so to speak, for air conditioning because of the power shortages we have had. We need to reduce the power consumption in India as a nation. So there's been a lot of emphasis on increasing the efficiency of the product. So that's been one of the areas which the government has been working, and that's forced all the manufacturers to really take the level of efficiency to be very good. In fact, today's date, the efficiency demanded in India for room air conditioners is probably one of the best in the world, which is there. It compares with the best of countries in Singapore or Australia or anywhere. So it's a constantly changing environment. So that's one thing which has happened dramatically. So from a product point of view, honestly, we are a product-centric product, whereas yes, service is there, post the purchase is there. But largely, I think the largest change what we've been doing is in the design thinking in terms of, when we create the process of design thinking of the product at the before itself, in terms of how do you get the user feedback into the system and then use that user feedback for your future products, right? And then you test it out before you come into the market. So just to give you a very simple and maybe examples, like specific to India, I'll give you, so this is not now, it's a few years back. We introduced a something called a password protect in Aircon. Now you would wonder, why would you require to have a password protection for Aircon? But this has come from a feedback that many of the nuclear families in India had this issue that they were leaving their maid in the house and they didn't want the air conditioner to be used. Now, I'm not making a comment on why or what about it, but it's about a requirement. There was a need. They felt that they should be able to lock the air conditioner so that the person cannot use it. Now, that helped us to create a simple feature which was done in that sense. So things like that. Or, for example, when we talk about India, right? Like I told you about efficiencies, right? Now, the biggest thing in aircon is to make the aircon remain clean. Otherwise, the moment it's choked, the efficiency will drop dramatically. So typically in India, a 5-star air conditioner will drop to a 1-star in about 4 months' time. So you created, we went back and looked at how to create an auto-cleaning technology for the filter to be cleaned automatically. Now, to do that, and then again, the filter material was changed from a normal plastic material to a stainless steel coated material for filter, so that dust, you know about stainless steel properties which are there. So things like that has been coming. Now, this is not something which is demanded by the customer, but this is coming from a user feedback which we do for how we check it. So whether it's an aircon, we even have in India we are also doing Hitachi refrigerators, which is again typically we looked at using the space where we are talking about the refrigerator where you use the vegetable tray in the center. Most of our products are rather than at the bottom because you have to bend down every time. And in India, typically you use vegetables every day. It's not like abroad or other countries. So those kind of insights have made us create those refrigerators which are having larger vegetable capacity, and they are either at the middle level so that it's much easier for a home user. Things like that is what is changing, I would say. And then this is what I was trying to explain to you from the product point of view. Now, 5 years, I'm not so sure, maybe 5 to 10 years, if I were to put a horizon, I would say that, I won't be surprised that part of our industry may even go into a service industry at some stage. I really don't know. I can't say it for sure. Like we are discussing about car, right? Outside, abroad, we are talking about the car manufacturing. That some stage, car will become a service instead of becoming an ownership-driven product. Whether it's going to happen in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, but I'm sure it's going to happen in our lifetime. It's not going to be too far off. So things will change depending upon how rapidly these things happen. And of course, frankly, regulations are important. So I would, so one more very important thing which probably India was also going to learn is that, especially coming to the customer centricity is about the user feedback and data, right? So I'm not so sure how much of data privacy we are still so strong in India today, which is extremely strong in countries like, Europe or Singapore or Australia. Those are things which we need to be careful about in India as we go ahead. But that's where we get all the data for using for the customer to come with the new products or new services which are there. So I would say that's going to be an important how we manage the data in India is going to be a critical element in the next 5 years to come.
Okay, fabulous. Yeah, I really love the point, Varghese, which you talked about, directly taking user feedback and seeing how that can be, can reflect in the final product, because that is really listening to the customer's voice and incorporating it in your product. So I think that's great. A lot of companies have a lot of customer surveys, listen to them, and then it gets presented at various at the board meeting and so on and so forth. But finally, when it comes down to implementing them, that's where they kind of gather dust. Many a times, I'm not saying all the time, many a times. So yes, I think that's a great insight which I have, and I didn't know about this part, that this is such a useful part you talked about. Again, good, bad, we keep it aside. But password protection, yeah, it's a very practical thing, because if full day you leave it, it may not be it is.
Yeah, I think it's important also from the point of view that when you look at consumers, you can't create a product for a consumer, but you need to, have a basket of needs which are taken care of, So once you understand the consumer needs and you can package that product accordingly, then that will help you service customers at large, So it's not that the password product is going to be relevant to all 100% of the customers. Maybe it's relevant only to the 2% of the customers, but for that 2%, it's important, So it's about how do you address your consumers once you define your, the consumers you want to address. I think that's important.
So that segment, you can address that segment, take care of things. Fantastic, yeah. And those kind of customers, then they're almost like your customers for life, because their need has been fulfilled by only one organization probably at one time. And about that vegetable tray, that's again a very practical. So both these are very practical solution. I'm glad you brought them out. And I think there's a learning there that as organization, if you're listening to the customer and taking one or two steps forward, I'm sure the customers will be a great, loyal customer for us, and he or she will make sure that 10 other people hear about the wonderful thing as an organization we do for them. And yes, the 5 years from now, a lot of products will become services. Yes, I think I believe you, because I've been hearing and reading about the fact that people are looking at cars no longer being products, they also becoming service. You just mentioned that, right? So you're saying even your industry can move from product to service. So you just tap into a car, take that, use it, and put it back again. So no one owns a car. People start using cars as and when they need it. So reduces emission and a lot of other benefits, right? Yeah, yeah. And I have interacted with a lot of millennials, and they say we don't want a car, we don't want a house, right? You must be facing that. You must
Yeah,
be.
you're absolutely right. I mean, in fact, most of my nephews and nieces, in fact, none of them own a car today, which is very strange in India. So it's the people are changing there completely. So that, and that's what is relevant. Honestly, as an organization, we must look at the needs of the consumers we address, and that's important.
Great, thank you for that. Let's go ahead, moving on. So what are some of the leading customer-centric organizations in the world today? A couple of names. What are they doing? A couple of things differently.
Aman, is that to me?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So very funnily, I don't want to quote you an example of an organization. I would rather quote you from an example which I'm very impressed is of Taiwan government. I know they have heard of them. They have created what is called PDIS, Public Digital Innovation Space.
Okay.
And they are now involving the citizens to define what kind of needs they want to be addressed and how to, it's something which is very, very unique. And they're trying to get them to, they test out things like even when Uber was launched in Taiwan, they went ahead, checked it out. They gave the taxi unions were conducted. They took a feedback through this PDIS. So this started in about 2018, where they have actually started using the citizens. This is the first time I'm hearing people, any government is using citizens to take on how to improve overall, the governance which they are trying to look at from their end. So this is a very, very good example, because why I want to share with you is this is a learning model. It's not something which is going to stop today. It's going to continuously move as long as the government has the right intentions. They will keep doing that, is what I would state as one of the examples. The other examples from the product industry, from where I'm not talking about from Aircon itself, but I would say Apple is one of the real iconic product. It's got right from design thinking to the advertising to the consumer experience. So I would always say, for example, in India, if you go to any store, right, you interact to an Apple promoter or even a product like Bose promoter, you would find that their knowledge levels are far higher than any other promoters on the retail store across India. It's the training which they give on the product. So it's not about one part of it, right? So there are various parts of it, but I'm not saying they'll succeed everywhere and they become unique. Every organization will, have excellence in certain areas. So Apple has got certain excellence areas, which is the consumer experience at the shop floor, which they talk about. So it's pretty unique. Even Bose speakers are similar. If you notice that they will always be very consistent across cities. I've seen in India that the consistency of what the knowledge is available at the store level is almost same across board, which speaks good about the training which they give to their people. And also from the product standpoint, I think they are taking care of the needs of the consumer. So Apple, if you look at the way they have developed the product, the software, I think it's a quite a good company, and it's going to have a good future as well. We have seen that it's not, though it's in a technology space where things change very fast, but they have been ahead of the curve for many years now. Actually.
Yes, absolutely, I agree. Great, thank you. Okay, so let me also get the participants in to share. So somebody's already shared Amazon and Apple, some of the two top customer-centric organizations. Somebody else, Grofers. Okay, some more names. Let me hear some more names of customer-centric organizations you have had experience and you believe are the most customer-centric organization. Let me hear from the participants to this webinar. Great. Okay, good. So somebody's saying that, glad you mentioned product knowledge as a lever for customer centricity. Absolutely. When I go to talk to somebody of an organization, I expect him or her to know.
True. Yeah, I think Ritz-Carlton is an excellent example, Aman, how the organization has given the authority at the face level where the consumer faces, which is at the guest relation person. They have been authorized to take any kind of decisions which are there, which is very, very unique in nature, frankly. So
completely agree. Yeah, Ritz-Carlton is a great example. Yes, amazing example. Oh, so yeah, Amrita has already written about that, so she agrees with you. Tata Sky, TCS, Taj Hotels, beautiful. Yes, yes, I think all. So there's not one. There's hundreds of organizations which are doing fabulous with customers, and every time you have a touch point with these organizations, at least I believe I come back a very happy person, right? And fulfilled with the expectations, and many times they also exceed the expectations. So thank you for your inputs, all participants. And I think, yeah, thank you for that, Varghese, for sharing. And especially the government example, that was a unique one, right? So government,
yeah. In fact, Aman, even Taiwan, or even if I look at Singapore right now, the way they have handled the COVID-19 in terms of their mass distribution, it's amazing. They have made it so well. It's very, very unique the way they are able to deliver to across the residents in Singapore. Yes, Singapore and Taiwan are smaller countries. I don't want to compare with the challenges we have in India, but the same things can easily be repeated by a local government or a municipal government or anyone for that particular location, right? Which is comparable in nature rather than whole of India. So these are examples which are very good, I would say.
Great, thank you. Let's moving on. So we've got about 17 minutes to go. So just to share quickly, some of the typical construct, which you have for customer centricity, which is important. So the basic philosophy is always, like I mentioned, what Jeff Bezos says: start with the customer and ensure that all customers are included in all your decisions, and then you go on to ensure that we have all the customers, whether whatever inputs they've given, that's taken care of. He also said one beautiful statement. I would like to read it to you. Obsessing over customer experience is the only long-term, defensible competitive advantage. Okay, so I just repeat quickly. So what he said is obsessing over customer experience. Okay, you talked about customer experience at the beginning, Varghese, right? So obsessing over customer experience is the only long-term defensible competitive advantage which organization can have. So sustained advantage which can have is over being able to. So yes, so business orientation should be relationship. You should have a relationship orientation, and as you go along, the product. You just mentioned all about the products. I won't focus on that. You've mentioned how you can focus your product and meet the customer needs, even individual customer needs or segmented need. And many companies are talking about hyper localization. There isn't time enough, but we'll talk about it in some other webinar. Dabbawala Mumbai. So I'm hearing that. And somebody said how Pani Puri walas take care of their customers. Some of them are taking. So even the smallest of vendors, I believe customer centricity is not restricted to large organizations, right, Varghese? What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. It goes right up to a restaurant or even a guy who delivers products at your home. It can vary from any kind of roles that you perform. Frankly, it's not about only product. And in fact, in services, it becomes even larger, honestly, because services many times is very, very different, and each experience can really make you. And I would say, most important is, I think, the positive word of mouth which you create, whether it's in the service or in the product, is amazing, which is there. And I think that's what it's all about, right? If you're able to create more positive experiences, the customers will tend to speak about. I'll just take an example, at this moment, to give you an example of my wife. I know they've heard of a company called Dyson.
Yes.
Yeah, so they were a unique vacuum cleaner which is there. So it is very different, and they have the stick vacuum cleaner. Now, you won't believe she's when the product demonstration was done, it was done brilliantly. After that, when the service person came here, almost 2 years, and they gave her a free replacement of the full head, which she was not expecting. She's completely wowed with the whole experience, that she's ended up ensuring that her sisters have bought Dyson across, one in US, somewhere else. And this is what happens with positive experience. This is what I wanted to share. When you have positive experiences, I think the relationship with a brand, and that's what I think you talked about the stickiness. I think that these are elements which come across much more in these experiences, frankly.
Okay, so multiple experiences which you kind of bring about the stickiness by ensuring that the customer becomes more and more happier at every interaction level. So you exceed expectations, right? She didn't expect the the head to be replaced because of not functioning. She
Yeah.
didn't expect the demo to be so fantastic the way it was done, right?
And of course, it's given that the product is good and she's happy with the product while using it. That's given. I'm not
That's a given. That's a given.
describing that. That's a given statement, right? So,
Right, right. So
but
moving forward, yeah, sorry.
but it is the other experiences which make you, talk about it and creates that wow experience, or the delighted experience. Of there are different terminologies people will use it, but I would say it's a positive experience for customer, and that's what helps them talk about it to anyone else.
Yeah, yeah, yes. Absolutely. Agree with you completely. Okay, great. So moving forward, so companies create org structures which are customer centric, meaning even their organization structure to fulfill customer needs. So you have customer relationship managers, you have segment centers, and so on and so forth. Moving ahead, and of course you have different metrics you keep measuring, so you not only keep working on enhancing customer experiences, you also check whether it's really being enhanced, because right at the last mile you think it's being done, but if there's no feedback coming into you, you wouldn't know. So you have your metrics to understand whether it's really happening right up there. So yes, so these are the areas which I think are important to deliver customer centricity. And one last and a very, very, very powerful thing which Amazon has been doing consistently, a lot of other organizations also, but Amazon comes to my mind straight away, is that instead of looking at how many more customers can we acquire, if we have especially large organization who can enter into help customer in different areas. So you have Amazon, which is helping you with movies, which is helping you with AWS, web services, and so I'm just sharing with you, like I in 3 or 4 areas I'm using Amazon, right? So I think they've been able to see, okay, this is my customer, he's happy with me or she's happy with me. How can I ensure that I can bring in more products which he or she can take from me, rather than looking at just acquiring more and more customers. That's the old approach. So same customer, how can we sell more to them? So those are thoughts which come to my mind when I talk about how to deliver customer centricity. Moving on. So we've got the last 10 minutes, and yeah, I think the most important thing, you also touched upon it, knowing the customer. It's only because you knew the customer and you had customer knowledge, that's why you were able to make those changes in the product, went back into and change the product. So customer knowledge today is extremely important. In fact, most of the knowledge-based organizations are doing extremely well because they have profiled the customer. Now, I'm not going to wrong and right now because there's some gray areas, but customer knowledge is key to be able to deliver, deliver content or deliver product or deliver services which are relevant to him or her. So without that knowledge, you're not able to. So collecting customer knowledge, synthesizing, and being able to deliver. So that's, I think, you agree with that, Verghese, right? Knowing your customer is extremely important, isn't it?
It's the most critical function, frankly. So if you know your customer, then you really can take care of your needs. I think it's important, and especially how to create a differentiator. I think that's important as well. Because like you said, any product gets copied so fast that unless you're able to create a differentiated value for the consumer, there is no reason why they will continue to buy from you.
Absolutely. Moving on. So quickly, I'll not spend more time on this. This is a little busy slide. This is more about, so drawing a customer journey map. So right from the time the first call goes to the customer, which is a sales call or a prospect call, as we call it. So right from there to various stages of the sales process and that person becoming a customer. Then you talked about after sales service, which is extremely important, especially in the industry which you are in, and moment of truth, when he really kind of comes back and says, and I'm talking about, I'll share an experience about life insurance industry. The moment of truth is when, God forbid, something happens in the family and he has to actually cash in the policy. That's the moment of truth that the organization is really, really understanding at that time. I'm sure you have got a customer and you've got somebody who's going to talk about you to 10 other people, right? So the way you talked about, Reena is talking about Dyson to everybody. Same way, a customer who has a great experience with the company in a moment of truth. So I think all these at various touch points, and just going deeper into that is what we also call empathy maps, right? How's the customer feeling, right? When he has the first touch point. You just mentioned about consistency of experience. So wherever he talks to, whenever he talks to, so you said different cities, right? So an Apple promoter would have, or a Bose promoter would have across the city, small, large, would be able to have this, would have the same knowledge. So have consistency of experience, and you come away feeling, oh, this is a company which believes in training and giving knowledge, complete knowledge to all its people. So yes, empathy maps to understand the feeling, because ultimately, along with the usage and everything, the product being good, how are you feeling after using the product or using the service? You have to end with the feeling. So if you're feeling good and great, you are a great ambassador, one of the best ambassadors. And maybe you do 10 times more than what an advertising campaign can do, isn't it? So moving on. So now we talked about what is customer centricity, and now let's talk about, in the last 7 to 8 minutes, how do organizations deliver value to customers? Moving on. So you did talk about how you deliver value, Varghese. Some other areas, how do you create and deliver value? You shared a couple of examples. Some more examples if you have. How do you deliver value to customer? You talked about this, feedback coming in and changing the customer to suit changing the product to suit the customer. What other ways?
Yeah, so I think I'll give you again a very typical example where we have not succeeded as of now, but I think we are still, it's a work in progress. I would say is a simple thing like, a Wi-Fi enabled air conditioner. Now, probably it's thought as it's a sure shot success, but it is not. We have not got the, I think what we realize is that it's not about the Wi-Fi, it's about the app, it's about the service, how does the app function. So we really now are working on the app to make it as friendly as any of the other service industries app would be, and unless it is as good as that, you will never be able to succeed with that kind of a feature. So why I'm trying to give you can't have only successes, right? You will always have failures also, from where you need to learn and pick up, honestly, otherwise you'll never be able to move across, so that's the reason why I wanted to share, because I think what is important is that we must keep trying it out. Sometimes many organizations I see that they don't take risk and they don't try out things at all. We must do test marketing, we must do checkpoints, and then keep iterating the product till we are able to succeed. It's very important. This is very common in service industry. In a product industry, it becomes a bit more difficult because of the capex and the long tail of capex which is involved, but which is very common in service industry, I would say. I mean, which I think you have experienced far more than I have, since your background is typically from service industry largely.
True. Okay, so one quick question to you from one of the participants is, why do companies don't provide options to give feedback or complain by configuring the IVR or forms to not capture what the customer says? So there are so many who seek feedback but do not respond to feedback. So sometimes they don't want feedback. They configure the IVR. Okay, if this is this, and nice for you to call and click. So some companies do not really configure it well. Means they kind of don't want a feedback, don't want a complaint, and some of them, they listen to your complaint but never come back to you. So why is it that some companies are like that? If you have a quick thought on that.
So I think one is probably India, the aspirational value is very high, Aman, I would say, and there is different kinds of aspiration from different, and it's becomes challenging for the organization, and that's what true organizations, if they can go back to each response they get, I get the customer feels valued, and if you're not able to go back to the customer does not feel valued, honestly. And today IVR sometimes can be a boon or can be a bane. Frankly, sometimes it's very irritating and a process which is there. So we need to make it not only an IVR or something, because we need to make it an app-based or whichever people are going to use more conveniently. Right now, for example, people are going into the app world far more than anywhere else, So how do I make those kind of feedback to come from there is equally critical than from voice element or from web or any other mechanism which we need to look at it, Because I always believe that once you have a customer, you have a customer for life. I know I might say a bit of a controversial thing, Aman, to some extent.
Sure.
It's your intent should be to keep the customer as a customer, and if you're not able to have a satisfied customer, it's better to cut the relation with the customer and maybe give the product back and give the refund back than to have a dissatisfied customer along with you. I think it's very critical to create those lines as a business. I know it's not good to talk about it, but it's best that we need to create those lines which are very clear. Otherwise, this journey becomes more troublesome, honestly.
Okay, I completely agree, Varghese. I'm glad you brought that point, and I would just take 30 seconds to share my viewpoint on that. That yes, I've had sometimes shopkeepers, I have had sometimes companies who have said, okay, we can't fulfill this particular need of yours, but there is this company or this shop where you can go and get it. So so now I'll remember that place or that organization for pointing me to the right direction when they could not fulfill my need, rather than keep me dissatisfied and say, okay, we'll get back to you. So I agree. I completely buy your point. In fact, you are, by accepting your flaw of an organization or a product, you are creating a lifetime customer in that sense. He will come back to you, right? Rather than kind of pulling along a dissatisfied customer. True, completely. Going forward. So participants on the call, just let us be there for next 5-7 minutes extra, because I know we are towards the end of our conversation, but I would like to complete the conversation. Some of the points I want to add, which I want to keep it. So just bear with us for next 5-7 minutes. It'd be lovely if you'll continue with all of us, and I would love to have a couple of questions if you'll have at the end, and your learnings. Okay, so creating value for the customer, very simply speaking, is working on two areas. One is obviously eliminating costs from an organization perspective. It's very important. How do you reduce the cost and eliminate some of the cost, and at the same time keep increasing the value to the customer, right? So people want more and more at less and less cost, right? That's the basic thing. And if you can marry both, you can create the magic product and continue with that. So that's in a very, very simple form. These are the two areas which we could talk about. And going forward, yes. So some of the metrics. So can you share, Varghese, some of the metrics which you have used and found to be, useful for your organization, and some other metrics that you can think of from a customer perspective?
I think to specifically, address some of the issues, like I'll give you a very typical example is, especially in our industry, which is aircon, which is very, very highly skewed seasonalities there. The seasonality of May, June sometimes is almost near about, 30 times, 40 times of a normal day in any other part of the year. And you can't have manpower based for that completely. So how do you flex your manpower for listening to what Pushpa also, I think, mentioned somewhere? Why don't people respond? Because this is about getting your cost and the element. So we look at, sometimes it's important to even look at a measure like a call drop. How many call drops are actually happening, and how do you ensure that it is limited to a particular level, so that your consumers don't go unheard, or they and that's the worst you can do to your customers, frankly. So that's one of the elements which is important, especially for a seasonal product like ours there. Then, of course, we have the other post-service, like first-time response, first-time correction, whether you have a second-time call within the, a 30-day period. Do you have any kind of calls in the first 30 days of the product, so that, things which will be irritants for customer, right? So you're able to identify those things among your large database and then address that accordingly. So these are metrics which are very important from a customer point of view. Internally, there are many more metrics which are there, how to manage the customer. And I'm just talking about purely from a customer experience post the product purchase is concerned. We do that specifically on the after sales service area, I would say.
Okay, great. Yeah. First time right, and first time how
This,
quickly.
you will always have these matrices. I don't want to spend time on the metrics, but more important is, what do you do after you observe? I think that's important. Like, are you making those corrective measures in your teams? And, do you look at that as an incident, or do you look at as a process correction to be done so that countermeasures are put in the system so that the second incident doesn't arise? That's the more important thing when you are looking at these metrics, I think, rather than just the matrix value. Sometimes we get lost in the matrix value, but I think more important is the process which comes out of the analysis from that. That's very critical.
So just kind of in a way, paraphrasing it, maybe not look at too many matrices, but if you look at different metrics, look at few critical metrics, but ensure that when you look at it, you take out the value, understand it, and then ensure that corrective measures are taken. And when you go back to the metrics, they are in the green zone, right? Right from the
You're
red zone.
absolutely right, Aman. So you can't do everything together, and you need to focus on the top 3 or 4 things which you want to do. And once you're able to have a reasonable control over it, then pick up the other ones which are there. So it's always a journey, right? It cannot be
Right.
done overnight. These kind of improvements.
Completely. Right. Absolutely right. Let's go on. Let's go move forward. Yeah, so these are some of the things which you've already mentioned. So you've said here we've talked about some of the indicators like waiting time, throughput time, and how many errors are made. Mistakes are made even while handling customer complaints. You give a wrong response and it's not taken care of, and so on and so forth. And recommendation scores. One of NPS is one of the most. I mean, at least in the service industry, NPS is regularly used, Net Promoter Score. So how well you're recommended. So moving forward, and I think I would like just to, we've reached the end, and I would, before that, I would like to just state one thing. That customer centricity can't be at the level of the beginning, or let's say at the entry level where the customer is actually being handled. Not only at the mid level, customer centricity to me, I believe, starts from the top. So if like you, and I'm taking your name, I'm taking that liberty, Varghese, is that if you believe in customer centricity, then your organization will believe and behave accordingly. If you believe in only profit, then obviously the people down below will also talk the same language. Customer centricity will only get lip service. Is that a right assumption to make?
You're absolutely right. I mean, so I think it's very important right from the top to give that message across to the team. It's not, of course, it no longer is, frankly, a very hierarchical what we used to have maybe 10, 15, 20 years back. Now it's more of a team. But I think it's important that the top leadership team, I would say, it's not about one person. I think because there are many now leaders which are there, I think those leaders need to display that attribute. When a problem comes up or a customer issue comes up, how they manage that, I think, is seen by the team below. So you're right that they need to display that, not only their in terms of metrics and reviews which are there, but more in terms of how do they take that decision in those kind of examples. So that's I would say is very, very critical, honestly. So just to give you a further example, I mean, even when we looked at this product, when I said that I want to give a refund and take the product back, we have this decision making at a particular level. We wanted it to go down to a particular branch and the service engineer level so that he can take the call, not someone sitting. Because the more nearer you are to the consumer, you're able to take the right decision, not about someone sitting far. But that's the journey which each of us have to do it fast. Like Ritz Carlton is the classic example where anyone can take a decision at that level at a particular dollar value, and no one is going to ask any questions why that decision was taken by the employee. I think that kind of experience we need to create, and how we do it is not going to be only from the top, but I think it has to go down at each level, honestly.
Absolutely agree. Thank you. I completely resonate with what you just said. And so last two things to all of you, to the participants, thank you for staying a little longer than what was planned or budgeted for. You can definitely ask questions to me or to, Varghese. It's open. The forum is open for questions, 3 or 4, 5 questions. I'm keeping my chat open if you have any questions. Anyone? So we're still waiting. So if somebody's typing a long question, hopefully somebody's not typing a long question. So. Okay, so I'm assuming there are no questions because nothing has come up on my chat window. So one last request to all of you, just put one word. What was your in this 1 hour you spent with us, what was your top learning? One word or one phrase or one line which resonated with you, right? I'm not saying that's a brand new learning because most of you are highly experienced people who have come on the call. I'm aware of that. But what is it that kind of resonated with you, what agreed with you, and what you take away from here today? Just one line, one word, if you can just mention, it would be wonderful. And Varghese, you can keep your chat window open. You can also, I think, probably read it, right? What is coming up on your chat window? So, oh, so Pushpa is asking a question to you, Varghese. Can you read it? What would you say to AI and robots taking over customer experience? What is your view on that?
So I think, look, these are, I would say that AI or robots are tools at the end of the day. They are not the ends which are there. Pushpa. I don't think it's a for and against. I know there is a lot of strong opinion about AIs and robots which are there, but I think it's important to use, frankly, and especially in our kind of product, the machine learning is very, very critical. Look, I'll give you a very simple example today. If we can have a kind of feature in our icon by which we can go back to the customer and tell him, you're going to have a predictable problem, or your product, your filter is too dirty right now and you're consuming power which is 5 times more. Please go and correct it. Things like that. These are things which can come from artificial intelligence. It can come from sensors. How do I learn from data management of those sensors? So I think technology is good. It's about how do I use it for the consumer? I think that's important, frankly. We should not look at purely from a cost point of view only. We should look at from an experience point of view for the customer. As long as we do that correctly, I think I would say that it will take you to the next level, honestly.
Okay, fair, absolutely. Great. So looking for your learnings, participants, I'm just looking for the learnings from you to quickly share, and then we can log off for the day. Perpetual graph. Okay. Eyes and ears open. Absolutely. And especially if you're at the top of the graph, you are one of the topmost companies. And I know that Hitachi is a brand which is well respected. Yes, of course. So you need to keep your eyes and ears more open, isn't it, Varghese?
Absolutely. So your escalation process has to be very strong. Anyone within the organization should be able to escalate to any levels which are required. And frankly, it's a journey. Like I said, that you're not there. It's not that we have got all satisfied customers in India. We do have dissatisfied customers. So even in the app, we have given the escalation to the management level to the customer. He can escalate to the management level at any point of time he wants to. So it's giving the power to the customer as much as you can, and improve on that, actually.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much. Knowing our customer, yeah. Okay, so please do visit us if you want to know more about us as an organization. Visit us as www.saltorifier.com. That's our website. And super thanks for being with us for an additional time of 10-12 minutes and sharing your thoughts with us. And Varghese, a huge thank you to you for being absolutely upfront, straight, and just the way you are, talking direct and actual examples you shared with us. Really loved that. And some interesting and different examples, right? Not the typical corporate example you shared. That was wonderful. And how you related to those experiences. And Dyson is something which I kind of also, it's right up there. Like Apple has a great product. So yes, and service. So wonderful. Thank you all for joining and staying with us. It was a great experience, and look forward to chatting with you, Varghese, some other time, hearing some more experiences, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Aman. Thanks a lot, and I hope I hope people have learned from. I have definitely learned some more things and some more experiences, like even places like Taj Hotels, which was not frankly among my top list of hotels, but that now is an eye opener for me as well. So it's a good learning.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks. Bye bye. Thanks.